This is Creativity Drill with Dr. Don and Jonathan Rundman.
Hey everybody, this is your co-host Jonathan Rundman, and we're very glad you're listening to Creativity Drill. Our guest today is voiceover actor and improv comedian Taj Ruler. She's amazing. She's super fun and very insightful and a ray of sunshine. I'll talk to you while I work the computer.
Yeah,
so
of course.
We'll see if our levels are good. All right, hey.
Hey.
We're rolling.
All right.
Yeah, this is an interesting episode because Dawn suggested, we'll call you to be on the show. And so I just assumed that you guys know each other.
Not really, nope. Mm-mm.
And then I found out yesterday, I was like, well, you know her, right? And she said, well, no. I said, haven't you been hanging out at work or something? And
no.
Dawn said, not at all. And then I was like, well, how in the world did you know that she exists?
Right.
But Dawn has this great... She feels like she knows. You should tell why.
Tell me the tale.
Why does Dawn feel like she knows Taj?
Well, I've seen you in the old building, especially going to and from the VO station that they had set up, in the mail room and the closet.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And then you've come in plenty of times, I think, to do new VO work.
Yes.
Since we moved last October. Mm-hmm. So
tell everybody listening what VO means.
Oh, voiceover.
Oh yeah. Yep. Okay, go ahead. I just wanted to do a little vocabulary
for my aunt who's listening. So, and so I've heard your work in Holy Moly.
Yes.
And did you work on Reform?
I did a little bit. Yep.
So I've heard it on the Reform pieces, and then mostly with Whirl.
Yeah.
And so you voice Otto.
I voice Otto, and I voice Mimi in Whirl.
Right.
Yep.
So I feel like not that I know you exactly, but I feel like your voice is
definitely
a familiar,
crossed paths. Absolutely.
a familiar sign. So, and we thought it would be really great to have you come on, especially this being a podcast.
Yeah.
And especially talk about your work as a voiceover artist. Yeah. I know you also act, and you have some really great technical chops as well with editing and shooting and things like that. Yeah. But the VO World one is one that I think is really interesting and fascinating. And the fact that you've created these characters, for the video series that I've worked on, but also in other situations. So I'm really interested to hear the journey of a VO professional and how it is that you get to that point where you can say that that's a major part of your portfolio and what you do.
Yeah. I feel very, very lucky and honored to be able to say that as part of my profession, for sure.
So can I ask, if you sort of go way back, were you the kid in school who loved to do the voices?
Yep, I was that kid, for sure.
Talk about that and which voices you did, and if the adults in your life were thrilled or kind of not thrilled.
It depends. Yeah, I really, at a very, very young age, really like to just, for lack of a better word, just mimic what I heard. So I heard things and I would just try to replicate it with my own voice. I remember very, very early on, the first movie, one of the first movies I ever saw was A Land Before Time. And those voices of those tiny dinosaurs I was like, I could do those voices. And then I would just try to always copy them. And I still try to copy those kinds of voices. I found my niche, I guess, really early on. So
when you were doing that, were your family members and your friends kind of amazed that you could actually do it?
Yeah, a lot of times my mom especially would be like, hey, do that thing you do. And so I would be like, okay, I guess. So yeah.
When I was in school, the people who did voices, there was always one or two people and it was always a guy.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever knew girls who could do impressions or anything.
I like to break the mold that way.
Yeah, it's awesome. Did you know other female friends in school who
Not female, nope. I knew a couple of guys that would also be very into doing some voiceover stuff, or voices and things like that.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I mean, I guess, in the classic class clown kind of way, that's usually one way of getting kind of that attention of making voices. I don't know if that was necessarily my motivation, but I know a lot of the guys that I would know that would do voices, they would do it to try to get people to look at them and to observe what they were doing. But I just wanted to copy. I don't know. I just wanted to see if I could manipulate my voice in a certain way. So
that's cool.
Yeah. And for a while, I actually, before I went to college, I really wanted to be a dialect coach. That was a really big thing that I thought maybe that was my path in life. because I was so fascinated by different sounds that people could make and that I could try to replicate, but it just wasn't the path that I went down.
Could you copy the teachers that you had?
So, sometimes it was more like, I don't know how to best describe it. Like, I would hear something in somebody's voice and I could be like, I can do this. And other times it wouldn't be as much. So I would try to just, the voices that I could do, I would try to do as best I could.
Yeah.
And that totally morphed as I got older. Like, now I feel like I want to create my own. But for a long time it was like, can I make this exact sound with, my own voice?
Do you think it's the factor of more something about your physical vocal cords is different, or are you a better listener, or do you practice harder, or what do you think it is that...
That's a really good question. I have no idea. I definitely have always been told I have had a very unique voice. Like, that's just something people are like, oh, you have a really standalone voice. I haven't heard a voice like that before. But I don't know. I definitely do practice. Like, a lot of the time, like, I'll listen to other voiceovers, cartoons and stuff like that, and just try to mimic that. I don't know if it's anything that, like, I don't know. I don't think it's like, oh yeah, I work really hard at this thing. It's more like, this is something that's really fun. I'm going to try to do it. And then it just kind of developed into a livelihood even. So it's great.
It seems to me that you don't have a Minnesota quality.
Thank you. That is so awesome to hear. Thank you.
There's no oh.
Yeah, no. I mean, I can make it happen real easily, but yeah, that's something when I went out to California, where I went to school for college, everybody was shocked when I said I was from Minnesota. They were like, you don't have the accent at all. And I'd be like, you have a California accent for sure. So, but yeah, thank you. That's the best compliment.
You could be a TV news anchor, because isn't that what they say? Like, you're supposed to be placeless,
Ohio.
kind of.
Yeah.
Or have Ohio. But even if Southern Ohio gets the twang.
Yeah. Try to keep it as neutral as possible.
Mm-hmm. Do you know enough people that you've spent time with, or just, through media sources, can you kind of mimic different dialects in the country?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, like, it's a pretty broad spectrum. I can't, like, say, like, oh, I can do this county of, like, Alabama or anything like that. But, like, yeah, I can do, like, different dialects for sure within the country, and then I try to go out as well. So.
Do you have need for that with different parts that you've had in theatrical productions?
In theatrical productions, yes. Not so much in voiceovers. I feel like most of the time when doing voiceovers, they want to get the real deal if they can. So they'll actually get somebody that has a Southern accent if that's what they want. Minnesota's nice because it's something that you can turn on so fast, and most people can. So
what's the secret of a Minnesotan
accent? I mean, it's very much in the vowels, the A's and the O's. They just roll off the tongue real nice when you get there. So it's all flat. So
wow, you did it right away. Can you do Chicago?
Oh yeah, classic example is like the Bears. It's very similar, but it's also just very flat again. So.
Yeah, Dawn and I used to live in Chicago.
Oh yeah, Chicago.
About 15 years ago.
Chicago, yeah.
And when we lived there, I could do it. Like, I got kind of good at it, and now I can't do it anymore. But I remember.
But I bet if you heard it again,
maybe it would come back.
Yeah.
One of the things I used to like about it was if the words had S's in them.
Yeah.
Because in Chicago dialect, the S's are always like 3 times as long as normal. So if you can find a tasty sentence with lots of S's, then it works great. And like, Dawn has a friend, my friend too, who she met in college.
Yeah.
And he was from the western side of Chicagoland.
Yeah.
And he had the perfect Chicago name. And maybe he's listening. His name is Chris Hughes.
Chris Hughes.
And so he would introduce himself like, hey, I'm Chris Hughes.
Yeah, Hughes.
Chris Hughes.
Totally.
And it was the greatest, like, Chicagoland thing ever.
That's awesome. That's a great name.
Yeah, it's totally awesome. And it's sort of like that Saturday Night Live skit of those, the cheese fry booth, with Chris Farley and all those guys.
The Bears.
Yeah, so it's fun to have an angle on a certain region. Dawn and I are from Upper Michigan.
Oh, nice. Cool.
And they have a accent that's very distinct, and it's a little bit like Minnesota, but it's also got like
some Canada in it.
It's got some Canada in it, and it's got some Finland
in it.
I
can see that.
So it's It's really a fun one to do, and sometimes I'll hear a recording of myself when I was a teenager, like a video, and
you'll be like, wow.
And I can think, wow, I had that heavy accent
totally
when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And then I like you, when I moved away, I think I made a conscious choice to sort of dial it back a little bit.
I think, I don't know. I don't know if I ever really like chose to have that, like to be like, oh, I'm not going to do a Minnesota accent, but I feel like I just haven't. Maybe living in the city proper, it's not as strong.
Yeah. Right. It's different if you're living on a farm or if you live up on the Iron Range or something.
Yep, exactly. I have a really good friend who lived in Alexandria, Minnesota, and you could just, it was so, her accent was so thick. And yeah, I mean, especially like, and if you're from like the classic movie of Fargo and stuff like that, that accent is for real. It's real strong. So.
What's the story with your name?
With my name? My name is, my mother is Sri Lankan. So I think that definitely had some influence.
Wow.
Yeah. My parents really wanted to come up with a very easy name for me. They didn't want to have any they were like, let's give her an easy name where nobody will ever mess it up ever. And they did not do that at all. Nobody can pronounce my name.
But you're ultimately Googleable.
Yes, very Googleable.
Are you the only person in the world with your name?
Probably. I mean, Taj is actually a pretty common name in India, but here, not so much.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, actually, the majority of Tajas I've met, which haven't been many, but they've all been male.
Yeah.
And Taj is actually a very feminine name. It means princess.
Uh-huh.
So I always feel like they didn't do their research when they looked that up. So
it's an awesome showbiz name.
Yeah, I love it. I love my name a lot. I told my parents, I was like, really good job on that. It's very unique. I'll never change it,
It's unique and it's easy to remember and it's easy to spell.
Yeah, well, for most people, but not everybody. A lot of times that J really screws people over.
Yeah.
They're like T-A-G, T-A-I. My favorite is somebody once on a name tag spelled my name T-A-G-A-H-A. And I was like, I don't know who Tagaha is, but I'm going to slap it on there and I'll be that person. My nickname in college, all throughout college, was Tagaha because that's what I just wore. I was like, I'll take it. That's fine.
Have you ever been to Sri Lanka?
I have, yeah. When I was young, long time ago. It was beautiful.
Do you have cousins and stuff to visit?
Yeah, my mom's entire family, like all her brothers and sisters, went to Australia. They all moved away from Sri Lanka, but my mom decided to come to America, and the rest of my family went to Australia. So I've been to Australia more times than I've been to Sri Lanka.
And then she married an American.
Yep.
And then lived her American life in Minnesota.
Yeah, she's been here now, she's been here since she was 19.
Wow.
And she's, I think, about to turn 60, or maybe she just turned 60. She'd be so mad if I said that, but I just said it, so sorry, Mom. Now everybody knows how old you are.
Is there a sort of Sri Lankan or Indian scene for showbiz?
Oh.
Or in Minneapolis in general, or where you've worked around the country?
Good question. I mean, there's definitely a large Sri Lankan community in Minnesota, but I don't know how much they're in the business. Not many. I don't know any Sri Lankans other than myself and my mom that do kind of arts type things.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's...
Was it sort of unusual for someone from, if your mom is from a tradition or a cultural perspective, is it unusual to have a kid go into showbiz?
Yes.
Is that difficult for her?
I don't think it's difficult. She's very supportive of what I do. I think it took a long time to realize this is what I'm doing. She always kind of was like, eventually you'll do something else. But my mom also is a little bit of the black sheep of the family. Again, she moved to America when the rest of the family moved to Australia. My mom really wanted to be a singer, and the rest of my family all have 9-to-5 type jobs, whatever, quote unquote. So, so she was very cool about that kind of stuff because that's what she wanted to do. And my mom's a chef, so in a way I think she is an artist when it comes to food. So
yeah, and it's kind of a freelancey sort of job too.
Mm-hmm. Yep, she had a couple of restaurants in the Twin Cities for a very long time, but now she just caters and does her own business.
Oh,
so
cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you ever get gigs because of language? Can you speak any of the languages from over there?
I can understand it more than I can speak it.
Yeah. Aren't there a lot of different ones?
In Sri Lanka, there's a few, but the main language is called Sinhalese.
Huh.
So, and actually, because it was a British ruled country for a really long time, English is actually my mom's first language, and Sinhalese is like a very close second. She talks it just as much as she talks in English, but yeah. So that's my mom's side of the family, anyway.
Well, what kind of early gigs did you get where you realized that I could do this as my real job?
For voiceovers?
Yeah, or acting or writing, or it seems like, because you've done writing and like sketch and I want to hear about improv too.
Yeah.
What was the first time you got paid to do something?
Was the first time I got paid to do something? Oh, that is... Hold on, I have to think about that. The first paid acting gig I got, I think I was in 7th grade. I had done a couple of like community theater things as a kid, but not like anything that got paid. And I think I got a whopping like $50 for the whole run. And I was like, I'm doing it. And it was a play called Haroon and the Sea of Stories. I played a fish, but I got paid to play a fish, so that was really cool. Mm-hmm.
Did you spend your money or save it?
I saved it. Yep. I've always been a saver. Knowing that, I guess like there was a part of me that knew if I was going to get into acting, I would need to save money because it's hard to make a living.
Our daughter is 8 years old and she's been doing voiceover.
Really?
At Augsburg.
Fantastic.
The same gigs that you get.
What does she do? What voices does she do?
She's narrating the Holy Moly videos for another market.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so she just did 50. So she just finished the last two last week.
That is amazing. I had no idea.
50 videos or 50 scripts?
50 scripts for 50 videos.
Oh, yeah, because she goes in there for hours. It's like a 4-hour session.
Yes.
But she's, Dawn, you've given her some guidelines for what to spend and what to save.
Yes.
What are those?
Well, she's allowed to, she deposits most of it, and then I'll let her keep like $40 or $50.
Right.
So
that's great. Yeah.
But she's pretty frugal, so she ends up being this little kid she's got this little wallet that's just jammed with $20 bills.
That's about right. I had the same thing. I had a little lunchbox that I kept all my money in, and then would just like tuck it away. I was like, this is mine.
Don't you think like the first time you get paid for doing something that's so much fun?
Yes.
Then you're like, it's what do they say about drugs? Like the first hit is their first hit is free.
Yeah, you chase that dragon forever,
You chase the dragon.
Yeah, chasing that dragon. Absolutely. I've been chasing that dragon forever. I didn't even know I was chasing it until I was like already down that path.
That's great.
Yeah.
So did you do more work in middle school and in high school? And then when you went to college, was that a focus on an arts and entertainment career?
So I did shows in middle school. Like I auditioned for like school plays, and then in high school I did every school play that I could possibly do. I auditioned right away as a freshman, and I think I did at least two productions a year. And that was just like what I love to do. I was a theater nerd to the nth degree. That was my life. And then I had no intention though of continuing on in college. I knew I would like continue like as just like a hobby, but I didn't know that that's what I was going to continue to do professionally by any means. I wanted to be a psychologist, so I wanted to have my own private practice and everything like
Counseling.
that. Yeah, I wanted to do that. That's
wow.
Do
people come and tell you their problems?
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think that's also kind of why I wanted to go into it, because I felt like that was something that a lot of people were kind of drawn to me that way all throughout high school. People would tell me things, and I'm known as like the best secret keeper with my friends. Like nothing will escape my mouth. So
that's a good reputation to have.
Thank you. I think so too. Yeah.
Some people are just that way, where they're like a magnet, and they're the kind of person where their friends, or just even strangers on an airplane, will tell their deepest secrets to.
Yeah. It happened to me actually just today. What?
It happened today. Oh,
did.
What happened?
I was at a voiceover this morning, and this woman who I'd never met before, we just started talking because we were doing a voiceover back and forth. Or actually, somebody that was supposed to be there was late, so this woman just like came in to like help just do some back and forth dialogue wise. And I don't know, I asked her a question and like about her name because it was really interesting. And she was like, "Oh yeah, my background's this," and I was like, "Oh, my background's this," because it was similar. And then like I don't know, it was like 45 minutes later, she was telling me her entire life story and showing me pictures of her kid. And like at one point she got really emotional and almost started crying. And I was just like really wanted to be supportive of her. Still waiting for this other woman to come in so I could do my job. But it was really, I was like, okay, cool. That happened. And I guess she really needed to talk to somebody. And who knows, like she might be that type of person that talks to everybody like that. But it was definitely a moment I was like, okay, cool.
I wonder if some kind of performers, singers, musicians, or on stage actor types are, if they have a quality about them that is that kind of openness and vulnerability. If it comes through it comes through in the performances, and the audiences are drawn in, and the audience starts to cry or laugh, I mean, it's just, some people have a fast track to the emotional world. That's
sometimes it can be a burden as opposed to a blessing.
But isn't it weird how like some people just have that X factor and then some people don't? And there's really, I don't know if you can turn it on or off, or it's just who you are.
That is an excellent question. I do not know the answer.
Isn't that weird?
Who knows? Yeah.
What kind of observations do you have about performers that now that you've been on stage, you've been behind the scenes, you've been in the studio? Like what is it about people that make them artistic or creative?
I don't know if I can answer that. That might be, I think it's so individual to the person. I mean, in the comedy sphere that I'm kind of in sometimes, we always joke that it's because we've had really terrible things happen to us that we can do comedy. Like there are a lot of hardships when it comes to being a comedian, and I think that kind of energy, like to be able to laugh at your problems, is a really great gift. And a lot of times I think that's what comedians do. Not to say every comedian is like, oh my gosh, crazy, depressed and bipolar or anything, but like, there are definitely some trials and tribulations that go along with being in comedy. And so I know a lot of times with a lot of my close friends that do comedy, we kind of bonded over that fact where it's like, well, if we didn't have this issue, maybe we wouldn't have gotten into comedy because our lives would be normal or whatever.
And you wouldn't like
whatever normal. I wouldn't say that typical. I
love listening to podcasts, and so many of them are comedian podcasts. And that, what you're saying, comes through over and over and over again in those discussions where they'll say, like, I'm in comedy because I didn't have enough love as a kid. And so I compensated by being funny so that I could have attention and love and support. And so I get that from the laughter and the attention from the audience because my parents didn't pay attention to me, whatever. Like,
it's just, it's so fascinating. I think it's very individual because I know that's not the case across the board by any means. It's who knows why people get into it. Maybe they just got the bug at a young age and they were like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I feel like I need to do this. And that I will say, I feel like for the most part, when it comes to performers, it's not something that they want to do. It's something that's like, I need to do this. I don't know what else I can do with myself if I don't do this. So
totally. You were talking about the comedy community. Do you identify yourself primarily in the comedy sphere?
I think at the moment I do, for sure. I mean, I've been doing sketch comedy now for like professionally, kind of full time for the last 3-4 years. So
wow, that's awesome.
I feel very, very grateful. I love my job. I love the people I work with, and I've been watching it for so long. Like growing up, this is like what I would, when I would go see theater, that was part of it. I would always go see the comedy clubs, and I would go to the Brave New Workshop, is where I work now. So I grew up seeing, now some of my peers perform, and it's mind blowing that I'm among that. So.
Yeah. And there's so few people, like in a city like Minneapolis. I mean, how many people are full-time working in comedy? I mean, there's got to be less than 50.
I mean,
there's
more, not full time, I guess. I think that's the thing. Like there aren't many full times. I can't even say that I'm full time. I do a lot of different things. So, but But
are you a full-time freelancer though?
I'm a full-time freelancer.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's amazing.
Finding some solid gigs that I can continue moving forward with.
Yeah.
But
Is the comedy scene here in the Twin Cities tight knit? Like, do you all know each other?
It's a pretty small community, and especially in the improv community, it's super it's such a niche that if you get the bug, it's like you're in it, you're to win it, and like everybody kind of knows one another.
Yeah.
And there are so many amazing theater or improv theaters in the Twin Cities that I feel like are, developing still, or like have been well established and just not a lot of people know about it. And I've like seen comedy, like improv in LA and New York, Chicago. They're all amazing, but like there is really something special about the Twin Cities improv scene that I feel so, again, I keep saying grateful, but I feel so incredibly grateful to be a part of the community.
Yeah.
Because it's so awesome. It's so amazing.
I saw on your website that you've done some work with the Groundlings and with Second City.
Yeah.
So did you go to those cities, Chicago and LA or whatever, to plug into that?
I did. I went to Second City in high school. Like I took like a intensive, during the the Chicago Improv Festival. One year I went down with a group in high school and we took like an intensive class for like a long extended weekend. And then I went back at one point to just like take some classes as a teen.
Was this in like the Tina Fey era or anything?
Oh God, no. That was
after that?
After that, for sure. Yeah. I mean, it was like early 2000s.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
It's more recently.
Yeah. So I would say 2003, 2004.
And then how about the Groundlings?
Groundlings was in college. So when I was in college, I took a couple classes there. I didn't do anything on the main stage. That's quite a process to get involved in that, but just took classes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there differences in the approach of those two schools of thought?
Groundlings in Second City, not as much. I mean, UCB is pretty different in terms of their technique and approach.
That's New York based, right?
Yep, New York, and they also have one out in LA as well.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, they're really focused on the game of a scene.
Yeah.
And focusing more on like what you're saying as opposed to creating like characters from the ground up. They're more like heady as opposed to organic building.
Yeah.
That's more Groundlings, Second City, IO, so stuff like that.
When I've been learning about improv just from reading and listening.
Yeah.
And I'm interested in this yes and idea.
Yeah.
Is that a universal concept of improv?
Yep.
Tell the listeners what that is.
Sure. Yeah. When you start in improv, pretty much the first thing that you'll learn, hopefully, in a class is the concept of yes and, meaning whatever is given to you, whatever suggestion is bestowed upon you, you say yes to it no matter what, and then you want to add on your own information. Mm-hmm. So, like if somebody's like, hey, grandma, you're going to say, yes, you are their grandma. And then you can add more information about your relationship or what you're doing and stuff like that. So.
It would be so easy to derail the other person in your scene.
Yes.
Your partner on the stage, your cast member, if they say, hey, grandma, and you say, oh, you mistaken me, I'm the teacher.
Yep.
And that could be such a diss.
Well, that kind of kills the scene. Then that's what I talk about if I ever am teaching a class. Like if somebody says no, it's called a negation.
Totally.
And that kind of, I'm like, well, the scene's over now. What are we going to do? Because then you can like be like, oh, didn't you take your pills, grandma, or whatever? And that's like a whole other.
And even if you're not necessarily on board with the grandma concept,
right?
You're still sort of called to accept it.
Yes.
And yes, and it.
Yeah.
Anyway, even if you'd rather be the teacher or the astronaut or whatever.
Well, and I always say like like depending on their own idea, maybe in their mind, they thought they were an astronaut. So I'm like, so you're an astronaut who's also a grandmother.
Right.
You have multiple facets.
Right.
Nobody is just defined by one thing.
Yeah.
So add it, take with it. It's like, yeah, I started late in life, but I'm going to space, kiddo. So I'll miss you, whatever the case is.
Yeah. It's an exercise in generosity.
Yes.
Don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think improv is all about giving. I always talk about to my classes when I teach them that everything is a gift. Everything you are getting from your scene partner, from the audience, from the space around you is a gift. So use it. That's why we're watching the scene. Nothing is just like a day in a life. We're seeing this because something special is happening right here in this moment. So take it and use it.
I've spent my career as a performer, as a musician.
Oh, awesome.
And I've almost always been a solo performer.
What instruments do you play?
I'm a singer-songwriter, so I sing and I play guitar and piano or whatever. Cool. Primarily guitar, but
Sweet.
It's mostly just me up there, kind of like folk singer mode.
Right, yeah.
And when you're doing that, of course, it's really fun because you don't have to. You can change the set list on the fly. You can just be totally in the moment. You don't have to rehearse.
Yeah, because you're your own band.
Yeah, you're your own everything, and so that's there's pros and cons. I mean, the pros are it's super flexible and fun and free.
Yeah.
But then the challenge is, like, if you're used to that and then you end up in a band situation.
Yeah.
I've been really thinking about what it means to be in a band because I had experiences later in life of being in a band after not ever being in one before. Right. And as I listened to improv comedians and actors talk about yes and, I just thought to myself, how musicians need to learn yes and.
Yeah.
Because,
do you feel like it's not so much the case in the musician community?
Well, in my experience, it wasn't the case.
Yeah.
And what I would have given to have a yes and situation in concert.
Right.
Because you're so vulnerable up there anyway. Yep. Mm-hmm. And you want to play well. And I find like you can get into an upward spiral of good vibes or a downward spiral of negative vibes. Yep. And so and everybody's making decisions in their performance, whether you're playing music or acting or improv or whatever, you're making decisions about attitude, about atmosphere, about volume, about emotional openness. Right. And there are times to dial it back and times to turn it on and all that stuff. And so it's kind of like emotionally dangerous space to be. And so, man, if your partner is generous and is there for you when maybe you're not quite 100% confident, and they are there to support you and encourage you and uplift you, you can get into this upward spiral. Yes. Where then you play better, or you get in the zone. Yes. And then you give it back to the other person, and then you give it to the audience. Exactly. And then you're just in this elevated, wonderful state. Right. But it also can go in reverse. Yeah. I think, the big thing, I'm not 100% positive when it comes to being a musician, but like if you're in a scene with somebody that maybe you're struggling with, maybe you don't trust as much, it's hard to kind of continue that yes and attitude because of that vulnerability. Yeah. And a lot of times when you are feeling vulnerable in any case, you tend to shut down or you want to protect yourself so you don't seem like, oh, I'm making all these mistakes. Yeah. And I always feel like in improv there are no mistakes. Everything is happening, and even if it's like not what you expected, another gift has been given. Yeah. You just have to press forward in those situations. And that, I think, that comes with time. Like, nobody just automatically starts improv and they're like, I trust everybody. Let's just do everything crazy. Balls to the walls. Like, that's not how it works. So it's interesting in the music world. There's no rock and roll class. Yeah. Where you can go and meet with a really experienced advisor and a bunch of other people who want to learn, and then get yourself out there in a safe space to learn how to interact or take a solo or come in with a harmony part. There's just no situation for that. And I think, wouldn't that be great? Because in acting and comedy, you can find a space to learn. Yes. And it's great. And then it has life application for personal relationships and how to be on the job with colleagues and 100%. Improv has completely changed my life. I can't express how much it's infiltrated every element of my life in every way. Wow. And I'm very grateful for it because I had no idea until it was happening, where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm applying this yes and attitude in my everyday life, where I don't think normally I would have. But I just always imagine now, if I was doing a scene and I'm saying no to this situation, how is that going to benefit, myself or the other people around me? So, yeah. Do the people who know you well, like your friends or your family members, have they noticed that about you since you started with improv and being more yes and about life, do you think? I think so. I mean, especially when I was in high school, again, I was acting in high school, so I remember allowing myself to
be more open to new options and possibilities just doing scripted theater. Even though it was scripted, I was able to really try different takes, try different approaches on things when I started doing improv. I was able to feel not so restricted by, I have to say it this way because this is what it says in the script and blah, blah, blah. And I know my dad has definitely said, like, when I started improv, like, I did like a big 180, you know, like I had a couple of close friends and I really opened up. I'm I still am, I can't say that it's changed, but I'm a pretty big introvert. So if in life in general, I tend to keep more to myself, and like I'd rather just kind of chill at home, read a book and stuff like that. So improv has helped me be more social, and that's huge, especially in the improv theater community. So
I'm an introvert too. So is Dawn.
Yes, introverts unite, but in small groups for a very short period of time.
But I feel like lots of introverts are on stage performers.
Yeah,
isn't that weird?
So too. Yes,
I think. Do people think you are an extrovert?
Oh my god!
Because everybody,
all the time.
Everybody thinks I'm an extrovert.
Yeah, every day. When I tell them like, "Oh, I'm an introvert," they're like, "No, you're not." I'm like, "Well, don't tell me what I am because you don't know." But,
I refuse to believe that.
I refuse to believe that you are an introvert. Yeah. Nope, I am, and I always have been. And I don't know. I call myself an outgoing introvert because my job requires me to be outgoing. Yep. But at the end of the day, I need to go home and decompress. Yeah. And, you know, I'm my boyfriend and I, we haven't been dating for like an extremely long period of time, but he is an extrovert. Uh-huh. So having to say, hey, I need some space is really, interesting and challenging process, I've learned, because usually like before I was like, oh, I'll just take my space, whatever, but now having somebody else kind of around, when I come home at the end of the day, he's like wants to talk, and I'm like, I need like a good half hour to be quiet. So and he gets it more now, but like when we first started dating, he was like, are you mad at me? I was like, no, I need the space.
Is he a performer too?
No, thank God. That's why I love him. So he doesn't do anything in the art.
Does he like to come watch you do your thing? My friends and I joke that he's like a proud parent because he comes all the time, which I really appreciate. But I told him, I was like, you don't have to come as much as you are. Unless you want to, you don't have to do it for me. Yeah. But your shows don't get old because your content is fresh every single time.
That's what he says. So that's why he says like, oh, but it's so new and always changing. I was like, okay, cool. Well, I appreciate that. But please don't feel like you have to do it on my account. And he's reassured me that he doesn't.
Okay, so you mentioned you were teaching improv.
Yes.
What's that like, and what do you see in these students? Like, what's difficult for them when they get into the improv world?
I think it depends on the class that I'm teaching. So there are a couple of different. I primarily teach at the Brave New Workshop. And they have a couple of different tracks. So you can take an everyday track, which is for people that don't necessarily want to perform, but they would like to try it. They've seen it. They're interested in it. They want to kind of integrate it into their today lives. And there are 3 kind of classes you can take: everyday 1, 2, and 3. And then there's a performance track class, which you can take if it's like, hey, this is something I really want to do. Maybe not professionally, but maybe professionally. I really want to hone my skills into learning how to be a better performer with improv. So it depends on that kind of what class it is. For an everyday class, I love teaching everyday classes because the students there, it might just be like, hey, I really struggle with public speaking or being more outgoing at work. I have a hard time, saying yes to the things that are given to me. I like to work by myself, and, all these different things. And to see them start from the first day where everybody is terrified and nobody wants to talk, or they do, and they're like, but they're scared they're going to say the wrong thing, to the end of the classes where they're so ready to go and they want to like jump into a scene and like they're ready to say yes and laugh and be adventurous, is a really fascinating thing to watch.
Does anybody ever cry?
Yes. And I do say at the first day of class, usually I remind people that I'm not a therapist. I can't actually, because improv reflects life and vice versa. What's happening in your day-to-day life is going to bleed into improv. Yeah. It just happens.
Sure. It's like subconscious. Yeah. Because that stuff is going to, because if you're really improving and you're just turning off your editor and letting whatever come out of your mouth.
Exactly.
That subconscious stuff that you're going through in your life is it's going to come through.
It's going to come through. And I always say, let it come through. I think those are the best kind of scenes that form and some of the best ways to trust one another. I always say this is a safe space, that we're not going to judge one another. We're just going to let ourselves like have fun. At the end of the day, I want people to have fun with improv, because that's what it really is about. Like, you know, I told my mom when I was young, I never wanted to stop playing pretend, and I succeeded. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's what I want people to feel. I want them to have a good time. And also challenge themselves to put themselves out there. Improv is so vulnerable. And courageous and daring.
It is.
So I love seeing everyday classes challenge themselves in that way.
It's really unlike anything else, because, you know, it's vulnerable to be a musician, but in that situation, you have like even the physicality of an instrument to stand behind it. Like you can sit at the piano, you can hold a guitar, and those are huge security blankets. I mean, it feels, I remember when I was first starting, and people were, some people who were kind of role models and teachers were sort of pushing me to, now you have to sing and without your guitar. Just stand there and sing.
Just stand there and go.
And what a huge thing that was, because I felt so confident with the instrument. Right. And then you take it away, and wow, that's a huge hurdle to get over.
Absolutely.
And boy, if you're improvising, you don't have anything.
Sometimes you really are coming from a place of zero, which is what you want. You want to come from that place, but man, it can be so overwhelming and terrifying.
Totally. And even if you're a public speaker, you might have a speech that you know, or that you've got a manuscript, or if you're a musician, you're going to at least sing a song. Okay, this is the song. This is how it goes. Right. But in improv, you're just flying up there. Yeah. That's crazy.
Sometimes,
It's awesome. I mean, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. That's amazing. Have you had moments where I'd love to hear like a really awful, just like where you just bomb, and then something where you just kill. What was it like, and how did it feel like in both situations?
Well, okay, I'll have to really rack my brain, because a lot of times, especially with improv, it's so fast. It comes and it goes. Yeah. I don't remember most scenes that I've
So I suppose even if you're bombing,
it's done.
It's okay, because like 2 minutes later,
it's
something...
Over. Killing. Yep.
You're killing it.
Yep, I'm killing it. Let me think. I mean, I can definitely recall some times where it was like, there was no laughter. I was not, the audience and I were just not jiving, and it feels atrocious. Like, it's so terrible. But I always try to remind myself that it's done. It'll never happen again. That scene is literally disappeared from the face of the earth unless somebody recorded it, and then you're going to try to find it and destroy it later. But you just have to move forward from it. And most of the times that I did feel that way, it's because I felt too vulnerable to open up. So I was blocking my own self. So I didn't feel safe with the people I was playing with, or I was just having a really hard day and I was worried my own life would bleed out. So I tried to really stop that. Now I let myself just kind of go with that. But earlier on, that was a challenge for me. And
so is that a skill you develop? Do you get better at letting go and opening up?
I don't know if better is the right word. I think I challenge myself to do it more. It's never easy. I mean, I think we all still continue. I know personally, I shouldn't say everybody because I don't know everybody, but I personally struggle with being vulnerable all the time. I mean, it's such a hard thing to do. But I will push myself as best I can to open myself up on stage. And that's what people want to see. They want to see, they don't want to necessarily, I know this is going to sound weird, but they don't necessarily want to see you be funny. They want to see you be real. And a lot of times being real is being funny. I tell my students all the time, don't try to be funny. Don't think of a joke beforehand. Let yourself be in the moment. And even if you have no idea what's going to happen or what you're going to say, great. Go with it. Say, I don't know. It's okay. It's okay to say, I don't know.
Isn't that weird how like a room full of strangers can tell how you are and how you're doing? And they can read it like, it's almost like there's a vibe
Yep.
in the room with you that everybody can tap into.
Yep, absolutely.
It's so wild. Like I've noticed, this is my 25th anniversary of being a musician.
Nice.
And
Congrats. Yeah.
It's kind of I think I'm having kind of a milestone moment in my life. And I'm realizing that as I get older, I'm having more moments of kind of euphoria in performance.
Yes.
And then I think about my 20s, and of course I loved music in my 20s and I had fun.
Right.
And I was able to keep the ball rolling and all that stuff. But I don't remember sort of having euphoric moments of emotional, just like emotional heights.
Yeah, they're few and far between.
I don't remember that in those days. But now it happens.
All the time?
Not all the time, but it happens more than ever before.
That's awesome.
And
that's what you want.
Yeah. And I thought, I don't know if it's maturity, or if it's age, or if it's I think being a parent has something to do with it.
I'm sure.
And I think just experience
has
something to do with it. But boy, I have these moments where like I have to keep my composure on stage because I'm so moved.
Right.
Not by me and my awesomeness, but just by the moment with the audience, and that this thing that we have together for that moment together is so beautiful and so great that like I have to like keep it together.
Yeah.
Does that happen to you sometimes?
Absolutely.
Do you ever get weepy?
Oh, yeah. I don't like to admit it, but yeah, of course. And I think those euphoric moments are so wonderful when they happen. And I know you said you were a solo performer, but I mean, you have the audience, and that's like part of it. You know what I mean? Like you're not by yourself alone. And I don't know. I don't know if you consider your instruments sometimes like kind of working together. You have to work with your instrument.
Yeah.
You can't just like, bang at it and hope for the best,
Yeah.
So probably all of those elements kind of coming together and allowing yourself to feel those things. I don't know, that's how I feel when I do improv. I'm like, the audience is part of it. My scene partner is part of it.
Yeah.
It's, it's never just about me. And thank goodness. I would hate it if it was just about me. I want it to be a group effort. I want it to be a communal moment that everybody shares.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, this is a weird question, and I've asked this on this podcast before.
Please,
but and I get embarrassed to ask it, but I'd like to ask it anyway.
Okay, I'm ready.
But like, do you ever feel kind of waves of embarrassment about the work that you do when people ask you like, oh, what do you do when they're meeting you, or among your family members or something?
All the time.
I have those feelings where I'm sort of almost like ashamed of what I do.
Yep.
And it doesn't make any logical sense to me at all, but I feel kind of embarrassed, like it's like I don't want to brag.
Yep.
Or I don't want to sound snooty.
Right.
Or like I'm so cool because I'm in showbiz or because I'm a performer.
Yes.
And I think, oh, that's just stupid. But I still have those feelings anyway, even though I like logically tell myself that it's ridiculous.
Every day.
Really?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, I have a really hard time on multiple facets of that. I think one of the things, I'll try to say a couple of them, but like, I know one of them when people ask me, what do I do? If they don't know me, is like, I could just say I'm a professional actor, but I never do. I never say that, even though that's what I do.
True. Yes.
That is what I do. I am a professional actor and a voiceover artist and a teacher. Like those are my like main components of that kind of cobble my life together. And I usually just kind of broaden it out and I'm like, oh, I'm a freelancer. I do different things. Because for some reason I feel like freelancer is more understandable for people, or that it's like not as pretentious.
You're allowed to be a freelancer.
Yeah, I'm allowed to be a freelancer.
Yeah, you don't want to be pretentious.
You're in your 20s. Yeah, I'm like, I just freelance. I just do my own thing, And every day if I get asked that, any day I get asked that, that's what I feel like.
Isn't that weird?
It's so weird. Yeah. And then like even within the community, like when people ask you, what are you doing? I feel like because I have a job, maybe they don't. I don't want to...
or like I always feel really bad because sometimes I know people who I know don't like their jobs.
Yeah. Yep.
And or you just see, like you read it on the internet, or you see stuff. You just see stuff about people in society that they hate. They hate getting up in the morning. It's like that old a rock and roll song from the 80s, like everybody's working for the weekend. Like people work for the weekend.
I work on the weekends, so I don't know what that means. You know what I mean? Like my weekends are Tuesdays, so that is like the day I have off in my life. You know, so I get it.
And people ask me if I go on vacation sometimes, and I always say no. My job is vacation. Like when I'm working, that's my vacation.
Yeah. I feel like...
And it's embarrassing to say that because I don't want to be pretentious idiot.
Exactly. You don't want to be like, oh, this is... Yeah, I'm sorry that your job sucks, but I love my job, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel very fortunate that I was able to cobble my life together to be able to do this right now. And especially in the arts, you never know, right? Like, you don't know when the next job's coming or whatever. And I tell myself constantly, be in the moment, again, kind of like an improv, be present with that. It's okay that this is what you're at right now. It might change in a year or in a couple months, but it's okay right now if this is what you're doing to share it.
Yeah.
You know, I struggle with that. I mean, that's really vulnerable for me to say. I can't say that I do it still. Yeah. I want to say it, but...
Do you have people you can call or go out with to celebrate your successes?
Oh, gosh. I'm getting better at it. I'm really getting better at it. I mean, before I wouldn't even tell people when I would get cast in things. Yeah. And my friends would get so mad at me. And that was a whole nother can of worms. I was like, why are you getting mad at me? Like, they're like, why didn't you tell us? I was like, I don't know. I didn't want to brag. I didn't want to, I didn't want to bring attention to myself like that. Yeah. Now I'm better at it. But like, I remember when I got first cast at the Brave New Workshop, I was 25. I just turned 25. And like I had a couple of other friends that were kind of in the same position that didn't get it. And so I just decided not to tell anybody because I didn't want to make them feel bad. And I didn't want to get attention. And I didn't want, I didn't want there to be a divide of people.
It's so funny you say that though, because it's not as if you could hide the fact you were in the show.
Yes.
Like
eventually it was going to be found out.
And you would be in it.
And that's what happened. Honestly, like I told my dad right away. I was very excited about it. And I told like a couple of my close friends that weren't actually living in the state, like friends from college that like I called up and like my best friends from college. And I was like, hey, this thing really, happened to me. It's kind of a big deal for me. And they were very excited.
Which show was it that you were first cast in?
The first show I was cast in was called Occupy Arden Hills, or Brother, Can You Spare a Dome? And it was during the Occupy movement, to date myself.
And is it a Metrodome joke too?
Yes, super Metrodome joke. So yeah, that was like my first main stage show that I got cast in. I was doing a couple other things before then. I was taking classes, but like that was a big to-do for me, considering I never thought I would ever perform at the Brave New Workshop. Like I still to this day can't believe it. And they announced the cast like online, and my name was on there. And I remember getting a ton of calls of like, not like congratulation calls, but like angry calls being like, why didn't you tell me?
Oh yeah.
We wanted to celebrate you. And I was like,
that's nice though.
I mean, it is nice. It was just such a weird like backhanded compliment. Like, I wanted to celebrate you. Why didn't you share? And I was like, because of this reason. Like I'm so nervous about this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Like for me, I need to verbally process everything that I'm doing, especially if it's fun or successful.
Right, yeah.
And so like if I have a show that was really awesome, and I just come out of it just on cloud 9, I can't sleep even though it's nighttime. Like I can't, and I can't just blow it off and go back to normal. Like I want to rehash what just happened.
Right, like the post-show adrenaline.
Yeah, the post-show adrenaline is definitely a real thing.
Totally. And so if I get a chance to, that's why it's great when Dawn is able to be on the road with me sometimes, or if I can come back to the house, because then I want to stay up till 2 a.m. with
and
Dawn.
Just talk about it.
Talking about the show, or if I'm in a recording session, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And just kind of look back and savor it. You know, it's sort of like being a connoisseur of food or wine or something.
Totally.
You want to take it really slow and savor all those moments.
Yeah.
But oftentimes there's not the right person for that. Yeah. Or there's not enough time because the show finished at nighttime and everyone's going to bed, and you're wired. Or it's embarrassing because, there's not
maybe other people didn't feel the same way or something.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's hard. So sometimes I feel like I'm just busting. Like I so want to process it. And see, that's the fun. I would think that's what's fun about being in an improv troupe or a cast. Yeah. Because then you can all go out for like midnight breakfast or something and stay up till 3 talking to each other. And that's what was fun about being in a band is that you can talk to your band members or whatever and say, wow, that was amazing.
Yeah.
But if you're a solo act, I imagine, what if you're a stand-up comic flying around on the road and then the show's over and you're just like, there's
stand-up
crickets.
scares the crap out of me, so I have no idea.
Yeah, it's like a whole...
That's a whole different can of worms.
That's a solitary road warrior kind of thing. But I've said this on the podcast once before too, but I'll say it again because I think it's important.
Yep.
Okay, listeners, if you have someone in your life who's a performer or just any kind of creative artist in general, and if you want to do something that would be really helpful to them, you should email them or call them right now and say to them, if you have something that's successful, if you have a moment of success or celebration or joy, I want to be a person that you can call.
That is a huge gift.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Yes,
if someone called you and said, if it's great and you love it and you want to just go and you want to rehash it and process it verbally, I want to be the person you call.
Yes.
And call me, we'll go out or we'll be on the phone or we'll Skype or whatever it is.
I'd be way into that.
Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah.
So that's the gift you can give your family member or friend who's in the arts.
I think
is tell them that you're a person that they can celebrate.
I think that's phenomenal. I think that's a great gift.
Preach it, man.
Preach it, man. Yep. Yeah. Go ahead.
What do you do to take care of your voice?
Ooh, good question. I mean, I personally definitely I don't drink. Not because I don't want to sometimes, but because alcohol really just like kills my voice. Like if I drink the night before, I know I'm not doing a voiceover the next day because it'll just be like, goodbye, it's gone forever. Otherwise, I mean, like I wear scarves around my neck in the wintertime just to protect myself from the elements. But I do like some vocal warm-ups and stuff like that just to get it loose. And otherwise, though, I don't really do anything crazy or particular. Cough drops, I guess. What
was the gig you had today? You don't have to give us if it's secret or something, but just give us like, what was it like? Was it a commercial?
Yeah, it was a commercial for, I don't know if I can say it at this moment in time, but I can say that it was a regional commercial for a healthcare group. And it was very straightforward, back and forth, just a dialogue between, I was playing a young mom and somebody else was the other young mom.
And you're both there in the booth together.
Yes,
so you can actually talk.
Which was really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not all the time is that the case, but when it is, it's so great to just be able to have that banter.
Is it for radio or TV?
It was for radio. Mm-hmm.
Oh, interesting. Mm-hmm. Okay. Did you know the other person?
I didn't know until they got there that I did. Okay. But yeah, we had worked together just a couple times before doing actually an on-camera thing. So it was nice. We were like, oh, hey, yeah, we've worked together before. So it was real nice to just go back and forth.
Did you have to audition for it?
Yes. Nope, I didn't on this one.
Okay. So they just knew who you were.
Either that or that my agent might have sent them my demo, then they heard the demo and they were like, "Oh, we would like her." Oh, okay. But generally speaking, I go on voiceover auditions multiple times a week for sure, if not every day. So yeah.
And how does your young mom talking about healthcare voice sound any different than your speaking voice? How might you change it? Do you change it?
Yeah, I try to. I try to create a character every time. And the best advice that I got from a woman who does voiceovers, her name is Beth Chaplin. Amazing voiceover talent. She actually wrote a great book about the acting business, specifically in the Twin Cities. And I took like one of her like just intro classes, and she just said, always talk like you're talking to somebody. Like you're not just saying the words, like you are addressing your thoughts, even if it's, about something really bizarre, like, gold medal flower. Like I'm going to talk to somebody like I care about this and that they need to know. So who is that person and why would I be telling them that? So.
Did they send you the script ahead of time?
Nope, I had no idea.
So you just show up and they throw the script in front of you.
And not only that, today usually I know what the idea of my voiceover was, but I literally walked in and they were like, "Who are you doing a voiceover with?" And I said, "I don't know." I said I was supposed to show up at 9:15 today, and here I am. And they were like, "You don't know what group you're with?" I was like, "Nope. This is literally, I can just play you the voicemail." So, and then they were like, "Oh, we'll look it up for you." So I had no idea. And then they gave me the script. And luckily, not all the time is this the case. I had a couple minutes to look over it. I'm I'm a huge fan of when that can happen. That doesn't always happen, but it helps me process.
Yeah.
I have a little bit of a harder time just on the fly, just going for it, but that's me personally. Some people can do it, and it's no problem.
And who else is there? Is there there's an engineer?
So there's an engineer.
A director?
There's usually a director or some sort of creative mind.
Yeah.
Either it's the producer of the script, or maybe it's even the writer of the script. Sometimes that happens. But then, like, whoever the... there has to be some sort of, like... production head from the company.
Yeah.
Of some kind.
And are you at an industrial, like a voiceover facility, like a studio space?
Yeah, generally speaking. Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of a rental. It's a rental space that the ad agency
probably,
would just buy into.
Yeah, there's a couple of. There's not a couple. There's more than a couple in the Twin Cities for sure.
Yeah, and do you get? Is there an expectation that you have to be sort of dressed up and looking good?
No.
Or you can just be super cash?
That's what the best part about voiceovers is that you can dress however you want.
And nobody cares.
Can see
it's
as
super
long as you
chill.
produce what they want. You know, that's I love doing voiceovers. I feel so happy every time I get to do one. And working at Augsburg, it's been so great to have such a steady gig for so long and to be able to do multiple different types of voices. In the Twin Cities, it's great. There's a lot of great work for non-union actors and voiceover artists. Not so much though with cartoons. So I feel really lucky to have been given this opportunity.
Yeah.
Is it the first cartoon voice you've done?
Professionally? Yes, absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah.
Who inspired you when you were sort of creating the voices of Otto and Mimi?
Well, I nanny as another kind of part-time gig. And so I think maybe I just picked up a little bit of the kids that I've sat for or nannied and tried to incorporate them in that like spirit, that young spirit that they are. So
yeah, they're really great.
Thanks.
It's just I love when we get to the point where we can start watching even the animatic where it's just the VO and just sort of blocking visually and just there's so many aspects of the performance that are fun. It's fun when you can laugh out loud to, especially when it gets to be the voiceover and the animation to a script that you've like this is your fifth time experiencing the script, but there's something so funny about what happened between the animation and the VO that you laugh out loud. I love when that happens.
Are you in the booth with the other actors who do those other little kid characters?
Nope.
Oh, it's so you have to do like the conversation kind of one-sided.
Yeah, and sometimes they'll have, playback of other people. So like some of the voices have already been recorded.
Oh, yeah.
So they'll play it back so I can hear the take that they did.
Sure.
But it's always going to be the same. Like it's not going to be different. I'm still changing my take though in interpretation of it.
Will they do like 5 takes of you with slightly different inflection and then they'll just stitch you all together
They'll
later?
usually do like an ABC. So just like, I'll hear the pre-roll of the voice before, the line before, and then I'll do 3 different takes.
Yeah.
And then we'll cut, and then they'll say 3 more, or they'll say do it twice again, or sometimes they'll give me a certain way to say it or a direction to go in, which is really helpful. That's another great thing about working at Augsburg is that everybody has a really good, strong idea of the character already. So if I'm doing something that they're not, feeling, they can be like, can you try it more, like I feel like Otto is not as peppy as he usually is. Can you make sure that you have that pep? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that feedback.
Can you add, can you improv dialogue sometimes?
Sometimes, yeah. Every once in a while, they're like, can you just riff? And I'll be like, please, thank you.
Yeah.
I would love to.
Yeah, it's nice, especially during some of the credits sequences. That's been fun to hear that. Can you do, because not all of our listeners know what the character, can you just speak as Otto and then speak as Mimi just for a little bit?
Yeah, okay. So, give me a second. Otto.
Well, okay. So, Otto is 8, and he's pretty great. He's pretty rambunctious. He has an alternative personality called Phantasmo, defender of integrity and hygiene. So he's pretty great.
That's Otto.
Wow. Yeah. I recognize that now.
Yeah.
I just closed my eyes because I've heard that on the video.
Yeah. Then Mimi's a little bit more... I'll have to back up a little bit because Mimi can get pretty loud, but she's up here. She's pretty excited. She loves ponies. Ponies are her favorite thing in the world. So, yeah.
Wow, that's so great. Cool.
Yeah.
Wow, I always remember when Dawn and I sometimes will go to a big concert. And I remember we've seen Sting and the Police a few times.
Oh, lucky. Awesome.
And so we'll sit there, and Dawn always says the same thing every time especially regarding Sting, because he's such a gigantic star.
Right.
And she always says, I can't believe that voice is coming out of that guy's face.
Yeah, totally.
Because you're in the room with the guy and you can see him there, and then he opens his mouth and that voice comes out of his head.
Yes.
And it's really the voice that you know. So that's what I thought.
It's shocking, yeah.
It is totally shocking because you're so familiar. And that's what it was just like when you did that, because I've seen those videos. And to think, I can't believe this person is making that noise. It's wild.
It's fun.
It's just crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
I love it.
Well, what do you have any? What's your kind of career fantasy? Would you love to go do a Pixar movie?
Oh man, yeah. I mean, that is the dream. I think for a lot of voiceover actors. For me in particular, yes. If somebody called me up on the phone and were like, "Hey Taj, we got you a gig for Pixar," I would be on a plane immediately. I'd be like, "Bye, everybody. I'm going and doing this."
And it seems like they want comedians more
Yes.
than they don't care if you're an actress.
Well, I think
it's like Louis
yes.
C.K. gets those gigs,
Yeah.
and Tina Fey gets those gigs.
And I think that's the thing, though. I feel like a lot of times now with a lot of big Pixar films and Disney films, they want a recognizable voice. They want a famous person to do those voices. However, there's a lot of voices that are like additional voices that they do.
Sure.
That are, within studio and like getting voiceover artists and stuff like that. And that's the dream, to be able to even do those additional voices. I mean, I always joke, but not really joke, that I would love to just play a chipmunk. Like, I love doing those types of voices. So, like, to be in a animated movie playing a chipmunk voice, I'd be like, well, that's it. Career activated, achieved, and unlocked. So
I'd love to know what your kind of showbiz toolbox is like. Like, do you have a demo reel? Is it an audio? Is it on SoundCloud? Like, how do people do it?
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, I have two demos. I have a commercial demo, and I have a narration demo, basically.
Yeah.
And
commercial meaning for advertising.
Yep, for advertising. Yeah.
And then the other one's like for creative.
Yeah, for like industrials, like internal videos.
Oh, sure.
More like longer pieces of.
So that's a different thing. That's a different kind of thing than a commercial reel would be.
Yeah, I have two, and they're pretty different from one another, just in terms of like tone and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I have an agent who I get most of my work through. I'm exclusive with them, but luckily I got Augsburg before I was with Nuts, and so because of that, and because I'm not through another agent, I can still do it. I can get my own voiceover work, but if anytime another agency is like, "Hey, can we give you this gig?" I'm like, no, I'm exclusive.
Because you're exclusive.
Yep.
But if they come to you directly, like say through your website.
Yep.
Do you have to give a cut to your agent?
It depends. I think now I probably will or would, but again,
because you're busy enough, or you're
and because I probably get. I mean, for lack of a better terms, I probably get more money if it was through my agent. They would probably negotiate and help me out with that.
Yeah.
But
is there any? Excuse me.
You're all right.
Is there an industry standard rate for voiceover, or does it depend on how famous you are, or how great you are?
For non-union, it's very different. I honestly don't know much about union because I'm not union. But I know when it does come to union voiceovers, it is good. It is good money. Yeah. And not to say that non-union is bad money.
Sure.
But it is just a vast difference. Like let's just say I have a friend who does a couple of who's union and did 3 voiceovers in a year. A couple of years ago, and she is still getting residuals from them. So,
right, because it's indefinite every time that airs, then the person gets a little cut of it. Yep. We have a friend in Chicago. What voice did he do? He's in that huge
I don't know that we could say.
Oh, we can't say.
Okay.
But we have a friend in Chicago who's in a commercial that everybody's heard on TV a million times, like on the Super Bowl.
Perfect.
I think it's now his gig now is just to do that sort of thing.
Well, no, I think he does other things.
He does other things, but that's
a nice bump.
Yes,
it's a nice bump for sure.
Yeah. Nice
and then I went to your website has some YouTube clips and stuff. Do you also have audio sitting there that you can point to that if people want to hear? Oh, what does your voiceover sound like? Like for your agent, how does your agent store your audio? Like where is it?
I don't know. It's been a while, but hopefully on my website, under voiceover, there is a link to my demo that you can click on, so that way people can hear my.
Okay.
And it takes you right to my agent's page that shows my like headshot and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then you can. I even have a site on my website being like, if you would like if you're interested in, hiring me, please contact me or my agents.
Yeah.
And I put them both down. So
Did you have to fight to get an agent in Minneapolis? Is it hard to get one?
I didn't fight. I feel very lucky that I went in and I said, this is something I would really like to do. And like I said, I was working with this woman, Beth, and she, was like, you should come in and do a quick voiceover with them because they're hiring soon, like new talent with my agent currently. And I did. And they called me pretty quickly and they were like, we would love to represent you. And I was like, that would be great. Thank you. I'm still with them. They do very well by me. I love them a lot. So
that's awesome.
Thank you very much to them.
Do they get you work out of town?
Mostly in town. I've been offered a couple of out of town gigs, but because of the work that I'm doing, I can't really leave unless it's like on a Sunday.
Oh, sure. Because if you have to teach or
it's mostly shows. Like I can usually get out of other work, but I can't really get out of my shows.
Okay.
So.
What kind of on-stage live stuff are you doing these days?
So primarily at the moment I'm working at the Brave New Workshop and I do their main stage show, and the current show that's happening right now, I'm not sure when this airs, but it'll probably still be going.
This will post in September sometime.
Oh yeah, so it'll still be happening. So the show that I'm doing is called Throwback BNW, or Junk from Our Trunk, and it's actually a best of show from the past couple of years. We've taken our best sketches that have been really big audience fan favorites and put them all together in one show, and that happens every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at the Brave New Workshop through October. So
are you writing the content as well?
We usually do. This show, again, is a little bit different because we took already...
Because it's a best of.
Yeah, but come September, we'll be starting our holiday show or the writing process for that. And then we'll go into writing for that and then performing it.
And who is the cast? Is there a lot of turnover?
Good question. Sometimes we have a kind of like a core group of people that like rotate in and out that do shows at the workshop. Mm-hmm. It's been the same-ish cast for a while. We have a couple of new people, but that have understudied before for us. So like they know what they like to expect.
Yeah.
They've seen the higher ups have kind of seen them perform and stuff. So, but every couple of years they do have auditions to try to get new people included and involved.
And isn't there a traveling troupe as well? Or
there used to be a while ago, but not anymore.
Okay. Do you guys still do like corporate trainings?
Corporate,
and things?
100%, yes. That's a whole different sector of the Brave New Workshop. We have the creative outreach, which is all those corporate gigs that we do. Then there's the main stage, and then we have the student union, kind of the classes and stuff like that. So.
Yeah. Okay, I want to ask you one movie-related question.
Oh my gosh, I love talking about movies and TV, so whatever you want to talk about.
Oh yeah, well first of all, the Lake Bell movie.
Oh yeah, yes, In a World.
Is that accurate?
Yeah, it's pretty accurate. I loved that movie. I thought
did
it was
too.
so wonderful to see a strong female protagonist in the voiceover industry, which is so rare to see. And
and just so cool to get a window into that world.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously they played up a lot of the kind of humor of it. In terms of the guys that were kind of vibing for the parts and stuff like that. But I mean, it is hard as a woman to get those types of gigs.
Yeah.
So I love that movie.
Oh. I loved her coaching of the woman who had the sexy baby voice.
Oh my God, yeah.
And just sort of bringing
to be a sexy baby.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I love it when, she's at one point, she's like, excuse me, do you know where this is? She's like, I'm sorry, I don't know. I don't know, I'm so sorry. And she's like, okay, thanks, bye. Yeah, I love it.
Dawn is always the police of uptalk.
And vocal fry.
Oh my God.
Which is sort of a newer...
It's a newer
phenomenon that is being sort of publicized pretty widely because of the number of, celebrity types
that are using that, yeah.
Right.
Do you know people who actually talk vocal fry in their normal life?
I think, I don't think they're aware of it, but I can hear it so well.
Yeah.
And I listen to a lot of podcasts too. I'd love to hear some of the podcasts that you listen to because you mentioned that you listen to a bunch.
Oh yeah, later I'll show you on my phone.
That would be great. Yeah. But you can hear it a lot in podcasts, and I'm like, all I want to do is reach in there and be like, just talk from your throat, like lift your voice up. I don't know, this is I don't know. Some people it's not their job, but as an actor,
there's radio announcers too
Yes.
that do the fry.
yeah, they I just gonna talk like this, and I'm like, oh my god, you're destroying your vocal cords. Yeah.
But then you can put it in your toolbox.
Oh
or
yeah.
yet-
Oh my
yet
gosh, I have so many
another-
characters that come out of other things that I hear all the time. But yeah, I love making a character with vocal fry, but I also know that I then have to be really good to my voice because
Right.
I can't do it for a long period of time because it's really damaging.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. Have you been on other podcasts as a guest?
I've been on one other podcast, so I feel really happy.
Oh, good.
So thank you for asking me to be a part of this.
You could have a podcast.
I would love to have a podcast one day, but
Yeah.
that's down the line. My roommate actually she produces podcasts, so she did that for a long time for a well-known chef. I won't say their name, but that is local in town, and
Wow.
she produced their podcast. So for a long time.
Tell us some more things about movies and TV. Like, what are your favorites, or what are you inspired by?
Oh my
like,
God.
I love Dawn and I watch movies, but we never see TV. We don't have a TV
Oh,
other
yeah.
than like our TV is just a.
No, it's a no cable.
It's just
No cable TV, yeah.
Yeah, it's just like a Netflix receiver.
Yep, totally,
That's
yeah.
pretty much all it is.
Yeah, I'm actually thinking about going down that path. I was just thinking about that today because I do have cable, but I feel like it's part of my job to keep updated on
Yeah,
what's
because I
happening
mean, you
in
need to know what.
current events and
Yeah, and you need to know what shows are popular,
Yes.
especially at Brave New Workshop. If you're going to riff on something,
That's what I tell myself anyway. So
Yeah.
that's my justification. I can pay it off on my taxes, but or write it off on my taxes. I have, by my own full admission, I have a serious TV addiction. I love watching television, even though I have no time. I will find the time to at least like watch one thing in the day. And I love movies. I love going to movies and stuff like that. I always have. That has never been something that like I discovered one day.
Yeah.
As long as I can remember, I love going to the movies. So
Who's your movie or TV actor, actress, hero, or role model?
God, there are a lot. I wish I could say one. I mean, in the world of comedy, we'll stick there for the moment since that's kind of what we've been talking about. I mean, Amy Poehler is really high up there.
Yeah.
She was like one of the first comedians I remember just being like, wow, she's so great at what she does. Tina Fey. A lot of those ladies from SNL.
Yeah.
I mean, the first comedian and like show I watched as a kid, I didn't have a TV. We just had VHSs like growing up. Or I'm an only child. I don't know who we is. The royal we.
Mm-hmm.
My parents would let me just watch VHSs, and I had 100 recordings of I Love Lucy. So Lucille Ball for sure was a huge influence, I think, in my world of comedy and stuff like that.
Well, like liking Lucille Ball is sort of liking the Beatles. I mean,
Well,
it's a core, like foundational.
One can only hope that if you are in comedy, you know and understand how amazing her career is.
Yeah.
So,
wow, that's great.
Yeah.
How about movies that you think our listeners should go see?
Okay. Movies that are out right now.
Oh, we've seen a few on Netflix recently that have been so good we can't believe it. Like Force Majeure. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't seen that.
It's
Is it good?
it's a Swedish. Is it Swedish?
Or Danish or
Swedish.
Norwegian?
It's some sort of Nordic thriller, but it's on Netflix.
Okay.
And it's so incredibly good that I'm not going to say anything else about it.
Okay.
And then Frank.
I have seen Frank. Yes.
With the musician with the head.
Yes.
That. It was on our kind of queue, like to watch, and we were like, I don't know if we're gonna get it.
The same
we're
thing
gonna
happened
dig
to me.
into this one, really. And then once we turned it on, it was just
So
like,
great.
Holy cow! And then we just watched another one that blew our minds. What was it? Just like in the last
Nightcrawler.
Oh, Nightcrawler.
That's an amazing movie. Jake Gyllenhaal is talk about a versatile actor who will dive into whatever he's doing to the nth degree. That just shows a good sign of an amazing performer.
That was a great movie.
Yeah. I really love all of those movies. Well, not the first one because I didn't see it, but those other two I would recommend as well.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of movies that I've recently seen. Again, I'm really into TV right now. I feel like we're in like a new golden age of television.
Totally.
So
yeah.
I can recommend some TV shows that I think people should watch.
Yes.
The current show that I'm like really, I'll go one serious and I'll go one comedy. My current favorite comedy show right now is called Broad City. Have you heard of Broad City? Mm-hmm. Broad City is an amazing show starring two young actors named Alana Glazer and Abby Jacobson.
Oh, I've heard about this. Yes.
They are phenomenal. The show is wonderful. A lot of times people are like, oh, I'm not into like stoner humor, and I'm nowhere near a stoner. I've never done drugs, and yet this show appeals to me to the nth degree. I think it's really well done and so funny. So I recommend that show.
Okay.
If you're looking for something a little bit more intense and dark, I would say the show that I'm currently watching is Orphan Black. Have you heard of that show?
Oh, heard of. Have not seen it.
Talk about, again, I think I watch shows for the content, but also for strong actors and stuff like that. And the main woman who's in the show, Tatiana Maslany, is phenomenal. She's finally been nominated for an Emmy this year. And she's an incredible performer, and the show is really well put together.
And she has to play multiple characters.
That's right, yeah. And just to see that, and she did improv, I found out recently, for 10 years professionally in Canada. So I was like, oh, of course.
Yeah, that
and
explains why she can do it.
And she talks about how in improv you just start from nothing, and you just have to go with it. So a lot of times she's acting against nothing because she's playing the other character, so then she's going to have to switch and play basically herself again.
Yeah.
And she's like, it's easier when I've having done improv, which I think is great. So
I guess back in the winter or spring, Dawn and I watched the Netflix show called Bloodline.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, man, that was so good.
That's a great show.
Oh, I just loved it. And then I wanted so bad to discover another one. And then recently we tried Sense8.
Yeah,
and
that's
I had to give up on it.
I understand.
I couldn't, I got into episode 3 and I was waiting to get into gear and start rolling. And I just couldn't, I gave up on it.
I totally get it. The Wachowskis are so interesting because they usually, when they go all out. That's what they do. They're like, we're going to make a big production. We're going to do all the crazy special effects. We're going to make it beautifully stunning.
Yeah.
And sometimes... And I feel like in Sense8 is a very, very slow burn. To the point where it's like...
Did you watch the whole thing?
I did. I made it through. But mostly because I was like, I know this is what they do.
Yeah.
And I was interested more as the show went on in the visual aspect.
Yeah, the visuals were great. The sets were great. The cast was...
Yep.
I mean,
everybody was great. It was just... I understand the story is...
It just requires kind of an investment from the watcher.
Yeah.
In a huge
way. So, yeah.
Well, we're going to ask you 2 more things.
Yeah.
And how would you like these listeners to this show who are just getting to meet you?
Yeah.
And now they're going to want to... They're going to want to track you down and maybe come see you live, or...
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
How do you want people to find you?
I think people can find me through my website, which is just tajruler.com. TAJ, for those of you who don't know how to spell the Mahal.
I think it's funny on Twitter that says no tweet Taj.
Yeah, you can follow me, but I will totally follow you back.
You're
but
not going to tweet.
I do favorite though. I just started doing that recently. Okay. So if people tweet, I will.
And you're on Twitter because you wanted to be able to just check the feed and pay attention to who you like.
Honestly, until pretty recently, I didn't do much on Twitter. I would be like, I would keep updated on a lot of news sources because it's a quick way to just catch up with what's going on kind of current event wise.
Yeah.
But recently, because I've really gotten into watching so much television, I can follow a lot of actors now and see what they're doing. And
it's also the best sourse for improv people and comedy people.
Yes,
for sure.
Absolutely.
Way better than any other social network.
And it tells me where the gigs are and stuff like that. Yeah. So my Twitter handle is no_tweet_Taj_. No underscore at the end, but yeah.
Well, we always cross link all the platforms. So we'll send we'll tweet to your tweet Twitter.
That's perfect. Yeah, that'll be great.
And we'll also link to your website. And then people can come to Brave New Workshop to see you.
Yeah, and I'll say this because nobody's going to stop me. If people just say my name, Taj, if they're looking to buy tickets, that'll give them a major discount. So they can just go either online or they can call the box office and say, hey, I would like to use Butts for Bucks, and say my name, and then
awesome.
It's benefiting everyone.
Oh, you're giving people the inside track.
Yeah, I am. So,
do you ever go on the road, or
what do you mean?
Do you have a touring production, or
oh gosh,
or can people book you to come and
class?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have taught classes before. I'm a coach for improv, so people can hire me as a coach. to do like just like if they want to create a team or something, or if they're just looking to,
Yeah. Oh no. Maybe there's. I mean, there could be directors listening.
Yeah.
They could book
Hire
you for
me.
a part,
Yeah.
right?
Please, I would love to do any sort of voiceover stuff or
you're on camera.
I'm ready and willing. So
Yeah, that would be awesome.
I like I don't know, you can't see it, but I'm looking at the mic like they're there. Like, please, yes.
That's how you were just talking in the booth, like you talk like there's a real person there.
Yeah, I'm like, please hire me. That would be great.
It's just like you immediately engage with this invisible person.
I would love that. Yeah.
My question for you is,
Yes.
what would you tell your kindergarten self?
Oh my gosh. What would I tell my kindergarten self if I could say anything? Keep being quirky. Don't let anybody change you. So I feel like over time things have tried to change me, and try and just be true to yourself. That's the thing I would say to myself.
Great. That's a great message.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Taj.
Oh my gosh, thank you guys so much for having me.
Thanks, listeners.
Yay.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Great.